you had 10 men. Originally, we had 8 men. The 8 men, you had a tail gunner, you had 2 waist gunners. Waist windows open, no glass or nothing. Lots of times they'd be flying in 19 degrees weather. Now that 19 degrees American. That's Fahrenheit. Of course, over there you use European metric system. But there was times with air blast, cold, damp air, you'd be like 46, 7 below zero up at altitude. Now we went on oxygen. It's a standard order at 10,000 feet. And the first planes were capable of doing 26 or 27,000 feet. Some of them, it's like automobiles. They designed for certain speeds, certain economy. Did better than that. You could get them up to 29,000 feet. And that got to be pretty effective when the Germans was using their old Messerschmitt fighter planes. But as war time went on, they too became more sophisticated. That is, they had them all the time according to future security work.
Okay, I want you to...
Now, you want to say what the 17...
Yeah, we'll stay with the
The 17F had extended gasoline range. The first E's did not have wingtip gas tanks, but the F's had increased gasoline load to 2,780 American gallons per plane. That's a full up maximum fuel load. You always refer to gasoline as fuel. Keep from getting it confused with lubricants. These planes had modified Wright-Patterson radial engines. Paskey probably touched on that, some of it. Radial is a circle all the way around. There were 9 cylinders. First we had 3-bladed props. When they were able to get an increase in horsepower, we went to 4-bladed props. Incidentally, prop changes, they had a prop specialist. He went on to school just like all other people to more or less supervise the finer points. He was an enlisted man on installation of props, and you did not damage, nick, get rough. You placed that prop on the drive shaft. Now that engine, being a radial engine, had what was known as a mother crankshaft, meaning connecting rods, cylinders, would hook on to a mother rod.
Okay, can you tell me,
Some compressors in the industry are rigged up that way to get more horsepower, more delivery in a small place. They have 4 engines.
this was a very advanced plane at that time then, this,
The most advanced after about that came in to where you could use them in combat was approximately mid 44, which was B-17G.
then you worked on those
And
also?
it was a 10-man crew, flight crew. You want to get on flight crew later on by itself, or just go ahead and sandwich it in?
What I want to ask you now is the basic mission of the B-17 while you were working on it. What were they doing? If you could just elaborate on that.
As everybody knows, we did not have bomber coverage. Safe bomber coverage beyond, you might say, mid-France. But France was fully occupied by German troops. They had fighter bases all over. I was after the war on a fighter base that I would say was about 1,200 feet wide and runway about 200, let's say runways about, you might say, every 200 feet would have what was known as where you park a plane all over the continent as revetments. Park them out get them off the main taxi strip. There's a taxi strip all the way around. Just think of a wagon wheel.
And that's how they...
The spokes was, let the hub of the wheel be the control tower. These planes were distributed, parked, if you please, all around us. We had, when we first started out, our original TO was 8 airplanes. We had 4 men to initial mechanics. That included the individual crew chief, which Jenny was more senior in age than the average mechanics. Everybody pretty well leaned on one another's shoulders at times for ideas. A better way, the old American saying, make a better matchbox. Well, the same applies to an Air Force combat squadron or group or what you may.
How many missions did they fly a day on an average day?
Me?
Yeah,
No. Okay, I talked to you on the phone.
Right.
You didn't copy any of that?
I'm kind of trying to go...
Copied on the phone, okay, yeah.
Right.
You had a group headquarters. S1, known as S1. S2, S3, S4. S1 was intelligence.
Right, you talked about that.
They're the guys that basically would collect information to supplement what operations S2 already had. And of course, you get into S3, it would cover just about all general personnel and events, including cooks, instrument men, and so on, bomb site maintenance people. I have a little security comments if you want it on the bomb site. It's public.
Sure.
Do you want it now?
Yeah.
The bomb site maintenance was the most advanced instrument you could fly on an aircraft. You didn't dole a bomb site maintenance out to every plane. Usually you had 2 or 3 bomb sites on a plane. The group commander or his representative would lead the combat group mission. Also, he would have a deputy commander in case his plane either had a ditch shot down or disintegrated.
Right.
He had a deputy leader. And usually that deputy leader was the average run of people, but he would be a senior experienced person that everybody, not only in the group, but the other groups in a complete formation. We first started out sometime, it might be 150, 300, until we got enough B-17s, planes and fighters over into combat with us. We were stationed Midland section is really 50 miles north of London. That's where all that murky weather and all that up there. Now, in spite of everything, the beautiful thing about that was it was a natural camouflage. It would be damp. We could see enemy fighters in these, they'd come over to raid at nights. We could see enemy fighters overhead. Generally, the reason why we would know the German fighters, but not all German bombers, they'd send their medium bombers, was because they had a peculiar noise, like woo, woo, woo. After we got some intelligence on that, it was caused by their Cunel. Cunel, all over Europe was Cunel, whether you'd be in England or there. But in America, it's oil filter. It was an unsteady noise. And you pretty well could see them, at times the overcover of us, it being so damp, and especially when it was cool, we could see through maybe where it was thinner air, we could, see him flying at night.
You could
And
see
like
the
you could
journey.
see his lights.
Right.
You could see his lights. Of course, they got sophisticated like Americans, and the British flew at nights without lights.
Really?
The reason why they could do that was because the British had worked out an operational signal system called G communications. Eventually, all American pilots, navigators, and of course, our radio man. Our radio man was usually a sergeant, because most of them had, especially the ones flew combat, went to call it radio school,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and some of them were really bright, smart boys, and some of them turned out to be come out of the early stages of radio.
So
Radio wasn't too
they were
advanced.
navigating by radio. Yeah.
They were
And
navigating
that was
by
in the very
radio.
early stages.
Now,
Yeah.
they also had a cover for radio, colder day. Sometime it would be a code just worked up among them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. But they,
And sometime it could be numbers,
mm-hmm.
sometime it could be letters,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sometimes it could be a verse out of something exotic. But they had to get away from that verse of something exotic. This is communicating between planes and group formations, because the German, being the brutes they were, the way they fought and their mentality, we have to give them credit for being the most ingenious inventors. In basic warfare. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been as successful as they were until the American, the British, and of course other countries like especially Australia, New Zealand contributed what they could and come over and organized. All international groups flew under their own home country command. And of course, those guys were advanced in European communication technology. They go to school like everybody else. But generally, now the airplane crew among themselves have had what they call an intercom, intercommunications. And the pilot could communicate with co-pilot. Sometimes it was so noisy and all that. And they'd have their earphone covered up and all that. And of course, all flight personnel had earphones. At first, We did not have earphones. We had a throat mic right here in your voice box.
Really?
You made it up tight. You made it up tight. And really, you would have to unscramble of lots of that. Now, I give credit to a staff sergeant that recommended me to be responsible for his section, which was unit equipped. Originally, all that came under unit equipped parachutes. Mae West was this deal. It was charged with a C2 cartridge. BB guns used to use them. C2, but they had a little flip tab. Well, the tab would be a string like, but so long. If a guy bailed out, he was not supposed to pull that tab to inflate the Mae West. As you know, it was a vest.
Oh, the vest was the Mae West.
But it was made only to float you. It had no buoyancy whatsoever on the back. It couldn't have because of your parachute pack harness.